It's CardKast with Mike and Lenz, the show about everything sports cards, autographs, and memorabilia. I'm Len plus Z, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Mike D. Mike, what's going on, buddy? How's Brooklyn treating you?
Pretty well. How's Connecticut treating you?
Oh, very nice. It was a very nice day today, and I'm kind of glad that I touched up on all the, shocking raising of the prices of grading. And we have a good friend who has come back onto the show. Give it up for John Papa Rossi.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, yeah, man, you're very welcome. And so this show is just dedicated to like what the hell has been going on with all the grading companies. And I guess we'll start off with the domino effect. PSA I think pushed the first domino with basically closing their doors minus their two highest priced services. But prior to that, John, you'd recently, posted a video that got a lot of attention on one of the things that you kind of picked up on, I believe with the 55 Bowman Mantle. I don't want to start the show on a bad note, but would you mind sharing what that was? Oh, keep in mind, please keep it PG because we have at least one kid listening. So
I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. So, one of the things that it's come pretty clear to me and to some other YouTubers and some other folks that submit quite a few cards is that PSA, whether it's through their haste or through perhaps their desire to collect fees more often, has been returning cards that are cut short at the factory. And you would think that's a normal thing. Okay, yeah, they're going to return a card that's cut short at the factory. And that would be normal, except for PSA has several different designations for which they can determine your card was cut short. And the designation that they typically use for a factory shortcut is called a min size requirement. And so minimum size requirement is a very, that's a story as old as time when it comes to submitting cards to PSA. They use that quite frequently. And basically that just says that the card was cut small at the factory. Not that, Joe Blow had been using a card cutter or something to manipulate or trim the card. But the trend that I've seen that's been a little disturbing to me is that instead of marking them minimum size requirement, they are saying that they're trimmed cards. And now, you may think, well, the result is essentially the same, but it's not. When a card is deemed to be trimmed, PSA actually collects that grading fee. Whereas if they send the card back to you as minimum size requirement, they do not collect a grading fee. And so what it appears to me and some other YouTube users and folks that submit quite a bit that they're defaulting now to that trimmed designation to simply get more money. So, it's a little frustrating.
So that's not a one-off like with just you. You're sensing it with other submitters and collectors and dealers, I'm assuming too, or just seeing it on other people's channels. Yeah.
So there's a really good. I don't have his name of his YouTube channel handy, but there's a gentleman who has a small channel. And he basically pack pulled a Luka card. So, a brand new modern card out of a pack. And, you actually see him put it in a card saver. And he goes, well, this is going off to PSA. It goes off to PSA. And, lo and behold, 7 or 8 months later, it comes back. And it's marked as trimmed. And, he got a real kick out of that because, he didn't trim it, obviously, and no one's trimming a brand new Luka right out of the pack. I mean, there's no reason to do that. Right. And so he took that same card and he sent it to HGA, and that kind of spurred, my interest in looking at HGA as well, because obviously they've set up some tolerances and whatnot. And anyways, his card came back and they did not find it trimmed. And I don't think it was ever trimmed. And PSA is just, it seems like they're using this strategy for money purposes. And that's a little frustrating to me.
Well, I don't think they actually have to dig that, further deep into collecting money, because just recently, March 1st, they had raised their prices from bulk grading from $12 to $20. And obviously, John, we have been, texting back and forth. Mike and I, we talk to each other every day. And obviously this was big news. And, apparently, rumor has it, the post office out there, or the post office that they use, literally got, jammed up. And, everybody that heard the rumor, including myself. Well, actually, I didn't even hear the rumor. I was just actually dedicated that week, that last week of February. I was actually just naturally getting my order together and sending it in, and had like an extra 8 to 10 hours of lag time because their site kept crashing. And so, yeah. But that was just the start of it. I mean, that was just like, okay, cool. Like I could breathe. I sent my cards out on the 27th. They, showed up as being delivered as March 1st, and then showed up as being arrived at, March 10th. And I was like, okay, cool. I could breathe. And then obviously the response to them raising their prices was like, people were, ready to burn people at the stake. But again, I don't think anybody prepared or expected to see what happened on April 1st, or was it March 31st, whatever the day was that they decided to, officially kind of close the doors to all their lower services. Mike, how many cards are you sending in at $300 to $600 a card?
Oh, millions.
I mean, so, and with that, I think the even more shocking news is, their rival company, SGC, had raised their base standard cards to, to set from $25. The response in the beginning of PSA raising their prices to 20 was that they went to 25, correct? Right? Yeah, it was 25. And then when the shutdown happened, April 1st, and everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke. That's what I literally got. I got 3 different texts from 3 different people, I think including Mike, saying, do you think this is an April Fool's joke? I was like, if it is, it's very distasteful. And we learned pretty quickly by the second that it was not a joke, and that they literally raised their base grading fee to $75, triple. But what I ended up finding out, even in between then, is I had a couple of friends. One of them was basically giving me the play-by-play. He had sent in cards that I set aside for him to send in at the bulk at the $12 per card rate with SGC. He sends them in. He got them in, I think, like on the 17th of March. They wrapped things up. They billed him, and they sent back his cards on April 3rd, and they charged him the $75 price, even though he had the receipt and all that other stuff. And they ended up charging him literally 3 times. And then, but before they did that, they gave him all this an email of all these disclaimers that how they have the right to raise the price and this and that. And I don't blame SGC for raising the price to $75. I understand it. I get that you're just like, okay, well, we're gonna screw everybody over, but you can't do that to the people that already had cards in. I mean, that's messed up. What do you guys thoughts on that? Mike, go first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you send something in expecting a certain price, and then they do switch things around if there's your card grades high and it's a higher value card, and we totally understand that. But you never expect them to actually change the price based on basically on a whim. So I'm really I'm disappointed in the company for sure.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, that SGC has always stood by that. Hey, we're the collector's company. We're here to do right by the collector, and they supposedly they stand by their customer service, and I have had good experiences with them and their customer service. So to hear that is a real shock to me, and I don't think that's a good business practice, and certainly not one that would encourage more submissions.
Because here's the underlying thing that a lot of people don't understand. Because I checked a lot of the chat rooms, and I kind of just I grab my pen and I say, okay, we're going to do a show, and I want to kind of get collect people's thoughts on what they're thinking. There's a lot of people that may be card savvy, but they may not be business savvy, or they may be business savvy, but they may not understand they may just be new to the hobby and just don't understand the grading. So one of the big things that kept popping up about PSA shutting down, and then the price surge over SGC, was that they should just, they should expand, and that they should, open up offices everywhere and this and that. And I've said this to Mike before, but you can't just like deputize people off the street and deem them graders. You know what I mean? Because, it takes a special kind of person to actually grade cards and do it for a living. Like, John, you could look at a card, and Mike, you can look at a card, and you could give it your best shot, and you can, both you guys, including myself, can be conditioned to go work for a company and grade for a company. But at the end of the day, whatever they're paying, whatever their salary is, if you're good at grading cards, you kind of don't need them. You know what I mean? And most people that are buying and selling, from my understanding, if you are going, at least there's one company that I know, I'm not going to say which one, so I'll let you guys just, not you two, but like, I'll just let the people guess, that you have to sign a disclosure that you can collect, but you can't buy and sell. And one of the things that kind of, comes with that is if you take Beckett, PSA, SGC, and I'm going to throw JSA in there for just authenticating autograph purposes. Between those four companies, I think that there's probably maximum 100 to 150 graders between all four companies. I don't know what PSA has. I have a rough idea what JSA has for, autograph authenticators. SGC, I have a rough idea how many people are grading cards there. So, I mean, it could be below 100 people. That's 100 to 150 people max that are handling all of this. If not most of it. I mean, minus the newbies, the HGAs, CSGs throwing their hat in the ring, and GMA has been around for a little while. But you can't just, you can't just expand. So the $75 bump in SGC is really them saying, you should probably grade your cards before you send them in to us. Meaning, like, don't just send us your garbage. And, for now, I mean, we'll see if there's going to be a price deflation, supposedly, if PSA gets their act together and they can introduce, services again in July.
I agree. It sounds like that kind of strategy. In other words, they're they're accepting the fact that, well, we just can't just keep rapidly expanding to multiply our force and the number of cards that we're grading. And so we need to stem the flow somehow. And with PSA closing their doors, they just say, hey, if you want your cards graded, it better be your best ones. And it's a frustrating time to be a collector, but from a business standpoint, I do understand that strategy ultimately. But it's a tough one to be a collector who doesn't have cards, in the mini cards in the 4 figures worth of value.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it throws a wrench in the whole thing. It's frustrating to be a dealer too. I mean, listen, I do this full time, buying and selling. And so think about this. So now I do my advertisements, and I go out and I pick up I go to price a collection, where I had, when I looked at the collection, it's like, okay, kind of like, it's like Matrix code, right? All the numbers are coming down in my head. This is what cards worth are raw. These are kind of like what they worth, grading. Okay. The time out for grading, as far as like getting your cards out and having them wait your return on investment, all that stuff. Now it's like, it kind of, something does work in my favor. Some things, as far as like, when you are bargaining with the customer to buy their collection, or I don't want to say haggling, but negotiating, the thing was like, well, I'll just send it in for grading and you could buy it and it's graded for them. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. If you want to set that aside, it's not a problem. I mean, that's what dealers should do, if that's the route that they want to take. Otherwise they have to sell you the card behind the market in the raw, because, obviously, if a card looks like a 9, I'm not going to pay 30% of a 9 price on a raw card. It's just not happening, So, I mean, you want the card, you want the collection, but now it's like I'm hardly going to be able to send cards in, definitely not bulk. And they're not going to be able to send the cards in unless if they want to pay through the nose for it, depending on what it is. So, it just throws a wrench, through the whole thing. And I blame Mike. So
I blame me too. It's, I feel like it's kind of our fault for sending in not us, the three of us, but collectively as a community sending in cards. And as you were talking, I said, I want to look up 1988 Topps, probably one of the most obscure. Nobody cares. Topps baseball. Who cares, right?
Right.
I'm looking. There was a recent sale of a 1988 Topps Matt Williams, not a Tiffany card, just his plain old rookie. And he's got an 87 Topps traded, I believe, also. So it's not really his real rookie card. PSA 10 sold for $265. To me, that's a card I throw in my comment box. So if that card in a PSA 10 is going for $265, people are sending that stuff in at $20, $25, when PSA was $12 or $15, whatever it is, people were sending that card in. Now SGC at $75, probably not. So that's where it's going to happen, where PSA will finally catch up because they're not taking anything. SGC will catch up because they're not taking those Matt Williams cards anymore, and eventually we'll get back to what we want. These grading companies being able to return stuff at a reasonable return rate. That's the hope, anyway. I can't really blame.
And from my understanding, sorry, am I going to mean to cut you off? But from my understanding, SGC is caught up, and so that is part of their advertisement, meaning no bloated waiting times, this and that, $75, you should get it back.
A bloated price.
What's that?
I said just a bloated price. No
right. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not, but, and it's funny though, cause I look at some of the orders that, John, Mike, my friend Johan and I have an order. We have a bulk order. It's like over 200 cards. And, I think it's in its grading phase right now. And it's like 210, 215 cards. Some of the cards that Johan sent in, like some of the, PSA 10s and Michael Jordan collector's choice French 1994 whatever, I'm like, okay, but at $12 card, his thinking was, look, if they come back 9s and they're $20-$30, that's great, I still win. If they come back 10s and they're obscure 10s, like you said, Mike, the Matt Williams cards, it's probably a $200-$300 card, but but yeah, so I guess that and I get that. I if you're gonna force a person to grade, that's great. And me personally, I'd like to explore some of the newer grading companies. And John, you just recently, quote unquote, hit the lottery with a company called HGA. Can you give us a little insight on them?
Yeah, no problem. So HGA is one of the new kids on the block, and they have a new shiny toy that they want to show us in the form of a new holder or a new slab or whatever term you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And they have very, very flashy, ornate or colorful what you call flips that goes inside of the holder. So the flip is essentially a colored piece of paper that says the grade and the numbers representative of your card. And anyways, they tout, you could kind of argue it back and forth, but they tout that they use artificial intelligence to assess cards. But in my understanding, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I read through their process, and my understanding is what they're doing is they're using high resolution scans, and they're scanning the surface of cards, and they're doing scans that are about 10 times or 50 times that of what your scanner in your office will do. I think they're around like 6,000 DPI, 6,000 dots per inch. And so they have an algorithm. They can detect surface wrinkles. They say they can detect a speck of dust on a card. And they really feel like this was necessary to establish consistency. And so, they say that they're consistent, and obviously they're going to get tested. But before they can get tested, people obviously have to get cards graded by them. And so I was interested. I saw a YouTube video about someone grading their cards through HGA. I thought that the label and the slabs looked nice. And I was at kind of an all-time high of frustration with PSA based on what we talked about earlier. So I said, hey, let me submit. So I tried to submit on the first night. They opened slots on Thursday and Friday for grading. And the way that they do it, they only allow or open up a few thousand card grading slots at a time. And so instead of just having, like PSA when they were open, free-for-all, where anyone can put together an order at any time, basically HGA you have to log into their website prior to the time slot opening up, and you basically get put in a waiting room like you're trying to buy concert tickets. And they call it a lottery because up to when I logged in the first time, there was 4,000 people waiting in line to submit cards, waiting online, in line, in this lottery format. And the first time I tried, they had 2,000 card spots open, and people are allowed to submit up to 5 cards at a time right now. And so if you do the math, that's only a couple hundred orders that could successfully get through.
Right.
And I ended up getting put in position number 3,156. And so, needless to say, I wasn't able to submit the first time, but I kept trying. And on my third lottery attempt, I got in. I was able to submit 5 cards. I actually did vintage. So I've seen a lot of folks grade new cards with these fancy HGA, holders, but I'm more of a vintage guy, and I wanted to see how the older vintage cards would look. So I sent in a Montana rookie. I sent in a Mickey Mantle card. So I think I'm going to be the first out of the line with those vintage cards. But I got in. They're due back next week under their 30-day service at $27 a card, and I can't wait to get them back, obviously.
And I just saw that, and I was going to ask. And it looks like their website, or I don't know if it was just due to the demand or whatever, but they have 27 per card, but with like a 50 plus card order. So I guess if they're just doing the lottery, cause they have the 30 business days. And I guess because they're kind of forcing you and only allowing, 5 to 6 cards at a time, it kind of throws their model out the window because, I think 1 to 19 cards, they have at $35 per card, which that's a lot of money. I mean, have you been tracking any, any sale? I mean, I know you're sending in vintage, but I mean, does it seem pretty popular on eBay, HGA?
Yeah. So I've been following it relatively closely. What I have been able to follow has been more modern cards. So folks are getting, cards like Luka rookies back and whatnot. And so I've seen some Luka cards where an HGA 9.5, so that's essentially their gem mint. So I would say their grading scale most closely lines up with BGS. And so their 9.5 gem mint cards are selling below a PSA 10, but above a PSA 9. At least that's been what I've seen.
Wow.
But as far as modern goes, I'd say they're competitive.
Okay. And you brought up an old friend, our old friend Beckett, BGS here, where they seem to be not they're losing steam, but I don't really hear much about them. I mean, I submitted an autograph order with them just recently, like an in-person autograph order, but I would have thought that, with PSA closing the doors and SGC raising their prices, that Beckett would be the next go-to, but it doesn't seem like that. We have, I have their site up right now, and their economy orders are at $20 a card, which is $7 less than the HGA, which is interesting to me. It is.
It's interesting to me too, and I may try them, but my understanding is that their turnaround times are in line with PSA. So,
gotcha.
I am definitely still a collector, and so that the time doesn't matter so much. But lately, I've been selling a lot of cards, buying and selling some cards, mostly vintage again, and so it's hard to be on the hook for that long waiting, especially 8 to 9 months. It's just a long time to hold something. So
yeah.
Kind of some pain there.
Some of Mike's and I orders and some of my other orders are they're going to go way beyond that. I mean, I have an order in October that didn't show up as arrived until March. No. Let me take that back. So I have an order with PSA that I submitted in October. It showed up as arrived in January, but not received until March. So I'm probably not going to get that order back until I'm like 45 next year.
Yeah, that sounds like a little bit of a scam to me. I feel like, PSA gets away with that, where they say, okay, yeah, we it's arrived in January. We received it in March. That's like, no, you received it 2 months before that. Like, it's a little unfair. That's them like expanding the time frame for themselves. And hopefully that kind of gets cut down when they hopefully catch up a little bit.
So I'm going to ask Mike this first. Mike, there's a demand obviously for graded cards, and we're seeing prices going up and up, even though some of the, I just was told earlier today that some of the big dogs, kind of like a PSA Jordan 9 is down a little and whatever. I mean, down from what, was it down 50 grand to 40 grand? I don't know, but which is like just a huge price inflation anyways. And we knew we were going to see some corrections, but Mike, what is you recently purchased a fully graded vintage set, no? And I mean, to me, and I'm just, I don't want to bias you guys, but like, I just feel that like what's out there right now is probably just being snapped up at just, because you can't even send stuff in now and get it. So like a PSA 10, Paul Molitor 93 tops, right? Let's say you're looking to do Hall of Fame PSA 10 cards, or you're working on a 93 and they have it in, Four Sharp Corners has it for $20. I mean, that seems like a deal now. I mean, I wouldn't want that card, but I mean, am I correct by saying that, or?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a misnomer, though. I think people are worried that, all the graded cards are going to dry up. And we have to remember that there are so many in process that people are getting their graded cards back every day. That's not going to stop. So I think while maybe specific cards like that 93 Paul Molitor that I'm buying you for Christmas maybe not out there as much, may not see that many of them. But grading cards in general, I do feel like we're still going to see them, graded cards in general, just because, PSA is still sending them out. Beckett is still sending them out. Even though it's not the ones that you sent in last week, it's the ones that, you sent in a year ago. So I think the action of the cards arriving and the ability for people to still sell them is there. So I don't know if there's going to be a run on graded stuff. I did purchase about a year ago, I purchased a graded 1960 top set, all SGC graded, except for a couple of mantles were PSA graded. And my original goal was to send it to an auction house and break it up and sell it as a mystery product. Then I said, okay, I'll do it in my break room as a mystery product. And then I said, that's going to take me years to do. Plus, once the mantle's gone, if the mantle comes out in, break number 5, what do I do with the other 150? Now people are going to say, oh, the mantle's not there. So I'm going to do it a different way in my break room that I think is kind of fun. But yeah, it's a tough go of it for the graded cards right now in terms of, getting specific cards. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher, but overall, I think the graded cards will still be there.
Yeah. You bring up a great point, Mike. I do think graded cards will keep showing up, but at some point with the minimum grading fee thresholds raised, I do think they'll come down as well. I think they'll deflate, as you mentioned. I think they'll come down into the $30 per card at some point, but eventually I think, people won't be able to submit that 93 Molitor ever again. I think those days are gone. And so I can't see, a time at least in the near future, where a grading fee comes down, where anyone in the right state of mind would ever submit a 93 tops, star or anything, because I just don't know if we'll ever get back to that. So those kind of cards might dry up at some point, but it will be, it's down the road from now. I just don't think those cards will be submitted anytime soon again.
Well, that was, going off of that was another concern from some of the people in some of the group forums that I'm in, and people that are working on set registries. So like, let's say you're working on the highest graded 79 top set, and you've got a really sweet, bump wills that good 9. I mean, are you going to spend $25, $30 to have that card graded? Like that's like, no. So it's really it's going to hinder, I think, the, those set builders, and yeah, obviously, I mean, what do you call it? The Paul Molitor card obviously is, I can't believe I'm getting that for Christmas. So but one of the things I actually missed upon, and kind of a scenario that I guess I wouldn't want to make it public, but and it doesn't matter because there's not that many people that listen, but we were talking about like like some of the greed of the companies. Like I understand them, taking advantage of the situation, because listen, if you're in capital, like, so somebody brought up a good point to me recently, where they're like, if you're mad at the grading companies for getting more money or asking more money, then you can't be, if you bought a card for $20 and you sent it in and you got a 10 and it's worth $2,000, and now you're going to complain that they're asking for more money. Like, so it kind of works both ways. But my fear, though, and it's funny because I think a lot of people that were mad, with the shutdown and even the price hike, was partially because of laziness. I think there's a lot of people that were just like, well, I'm just going to wait and whatever. And then when they waited and they saw it, they got mad, and they made it like kind of known. Like, I read a lot of things. Oh, I had a ton of stuff sent in. Now I'm not sending anything. But the people that, like myself, that had a lot of stuff in, I kind of put my hands behind my head and just kind of leaned back and was like, well, at least I got my stuff in. But the fight's not over yet, because you still have a long time to get your stuff back. A. B, my other fear is that they're just going to be bean counting, like the stuff that you send in at $12. If it encroaches the over 200, like they're going to be like massively just kind of, overcharging you, or not overcharging you, but just charging you more. And they're going to keep more of an eye on that so that they can make more money off of them. Because one of the rumors I heard was with the price hike and the 300 to 600 for Super Express and walkthrough, and this kind of happened to me too. People were getting their cards back at that higher service level. Like, I sent a card in Super Express. It just got finished graded today. All right. But people were getting theirs back faster with stuff that was sent in within the month of March, as opposed to like mine in February with a lesser service. And that was a problem. I heard that was a problem. So I can't, I'm not going to confirm it. I'm not saying there was any lawsuits, but there could have been.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought experiment. And not plugging a YouTube channel here, PC Sports Cards. They're the biggest group submitter of cards to PSA. They make up, I think, more than 50% of bulk submission volume. They do hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cards, and they have stated that they are seeing more upcharges, and even on bulk submissions. And so what you're seeing is that, even if when you submitted your cards, call it 8, 9, 10 months ago, even if they fell within that, less than $199 or less than $99 bucket, they are potentially upcharging you based on now the appreciated value of that card in today's insane market that we're at right now. And right. So it does feel like it's more money fishing. And like you said, bean counting, looking and going, oh, wow, $9 a card. And he sent in a Mickey Mantle, which I did.
Right.
Why in the hell would we just charge him this $9?
Mike's in big trouble, because he's going to get a bunch of 9 and 10 Ken Griffey Jr. Toys R Us cards that he paid 50 cents a piece for. Now they're going to be worth like $300 to $600 a piece.
That's great.
Like, that's what they're going for now. And he was smart enough to get all this stuff in, and but the sad thing was, is we were trying to kick out 8s and maybe 7s depending on the set, because that card is tough to pick up centering top to bottom. That red bordered Toys R Us card. And,
sure.
And so we tried kicking those out, but it at this point, I mean, we should have just left them in at $12, $12 a card. So
yeah, I blame you, Len.
I know. I totally costed you some money. And, So now, just, really quick and, getting close to wrapping things up. Here's where I think, JSA dropped the ball. So Mike, we had, our good friend, Jimmy Spence, on last May, and we have it on he's on the podcast. It's May. They were working on a boom, and they were working on a, they were going to work on grading and also slabbing autographed cards. I'm like, great, this is going to be awesome. So I was like, hey, he's like, loosely 3 months. So we're way past that, way past the 3 months. And I feel like they dropped the ball because a company called CSG, who originally was, from my understanding, owner or co-owners of SGC, and then broke away, and they started becoming, was it the lead authenticator for comic books, Mike?
Yeah, CGC, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so this is, well, okay, so CGC, but so CSG is for the sports stuff.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So so I pulled up their website, and I'm like looking at their holders. I'm like, I'm kind of okay with it, but even there, I mean, like, you know, they're coming through and they have everything kind of menued out. You know, you could do 50 card minimum orders at $8 a card, which sounds like a deal. The problem is though, is the reselling, but I do feel that there is room for another company like this. And if they can be consistent, you know, they can make some waves. But I do feel that JSA, again, I'm friends with all those guys over there. I'm no ill will or whatever, but man, that could have been your spot. Cause I think they're going to slide in and they're just going to get some really good, you know, overlapping of just the lack of being able to send stuff in through SGC. And then maybe the wait times for Beckett's going to, like John said, it's going to way too long, even though a $20 price point is somewhat friendly. If you could get 50 cards in at $8 a card, but again, we're talking about how good is their stuff, you know? So I guess only time will tell on that. And, you know, have you looked at anything with CSG or no?
Yeah, I've seen several reveal videos, and it's kind of obvious to me that they are still working the kinks out.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of videos where you know, a large portion of cards are rejected for you know, they use rejection codes such as service unavailable and things that really don't make sense for not very exotic cards. I saw that a guy had submitted 4 or 5 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. cards, and they all got rejected as service unavailable. And apparently it ended up being some sort of mistake, but long story short, it looks like they're still kind of ironing that out, but I guess they're meeting turnaround times, and like you said, it is an affordable price point at the very least. Right.
And then I guess only time will tell with the, you know, what you can compare it to percentage wise. You know, if you have a 82 Topps Ripken and a, you know, CSG 9, what does that compare to a BGS 9, an HGA 9, an SGC 9? A lot of homework to do out there. So, and then the last service is GMA. I mean, they've been around for a while. Looks like they updated their site since I last been on it years ago. But here we are. I mean, they used to be like, you know, they were like the deal, like slab cards, you know, I felt like, I don't want to say they were loosely graded, but, you know, they definitely weren't as hard as PSA or SGC. I think they were close, but, you know, and I guess in that sense, they were consistent that way. But now we have, you know, basically $15 per or $12 a piece for 100 plus cards. It's a lot of money for a GMA card, I think.
It is.
You know,
I remember I sent in a bulk order to them just like when I was just getting started with grading. I knew that they were like a lower end company, but I had purchased, I couldn't even tell you, more than you could imagine, Honus Wagner reprint cards. And I'm like, I want to get these slabs. I think I paid like 10 cents a card. And I was like, at $3, for $3.10, if I could get a GMA 10, I have to be able to make money on this. And I got 100 back, and there were like high 90s of 10s, and then a couple of 9s. So I still have about 90 of them. So anybody need a Honus Wagner, hit me up.
Well, yeah, we're working on Len's Christmas gifts here. So
right.
That's right, Len. 2 cards now. That's the Paul Pulitzer.
The opening day box. So
yes, the opening day box. Honus Wagner for everybody.
So, anyways. So I guess I'll kick this off with like my very last thoughts on PSA, and then we'll take off and we'll all enjoy the rest of our evenings. So obviously I have so much stuff that's out with PSA already. I would like to say that I'll be open enough to try, say, as CSG. I kind of know what GMA is all about, and I've had their cards before. I would probably, out of all the companies, I mean, being that, like, I don't want to wait in a line for a lottery. I'm not saying that I would never do anything with HGA, but I definitely also don't want to wait long lines with Beckett. So I think to me, CSG would be the potential, kind of try them out. However, I'm probably going to lean more towards just whatever I feel like I want to get graded. I think I'm just going to throw in a card saver and just put it in a box and just leave it there. So, unless if it's something that is like, like I have a 48 leaf Jackie Robinson coming back. I've got, if it's a higher end upper echelon card, great. But if it's like typically I would want to send in a Walter Payton rookie in a 4. I'd want to send that in, but I don't want to pay $75 for that. And I want to pay $50 for that. I want to pay like 12, I want to pay 15. So I don't know if that's going to be even possible anymore, but so I think those cards are just going to sit around until, if the hobby ever goes south and if the, grading costs ever come down. John, what do you plan on doing?
I have a similar strategy, man. The graded shoebox, the shoebox is growing with the number of card savers in there. So I've been doing the same thing. I've still been buying a bit, but I do agree with that kind of thought process that I'm sure I'm going to end up holding some of them until, we get back to a regular price point. But I think you've convinced me a bit here. I've been thinking about going with CSG, and I think I'm going to give them a try. I have plenty of cards to submit. So,
yes, you could be the guinea pig for me. So,
sure, I'll give it a shot.
And Mike, I know I'm pretty much, you don't go out of your way to do the grading, but you'll submit stuff through me. But I do want to end this on a real high note. With your opening day room, you pulled an absolute monster the other night. Do you want to share with the audience what you pulled?
Yeah, it was last night, and I already shipped it out because I have a deal where anything over $500 value gets shipped out next day. And a gentleman won from a hit parade. Now, this is a very high-end box, don't get me wrong. It was over $1,000 just to purchase. We hit a 2018 Topps Update Chrome Refractor Ronald Acuna autograph card, and it was a PSA 10. And I was like, wow, that's a really nice card. And then I go and look on eBay, and there's someone's looking to sell one for $6,000. So I'm like, let's see what they sell for. And there was one that sold for $4,000, easily the highest card ever pulled in my room. So I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. That's an absolute bomb. Great. So
yeah, very cool card.
Anyway, guys, until next time, keep collecting, keep, I guess, hoarding and not grading, and we'll revisit with John again. I'm sure at some point I'm sure we'll talk about maybe some of his HGA returns, and hopefully he'll get some stuff out to CSG. I'm sure he will before I will, because my box is still just kind of building up, and I got to get out and get some more stuff. But anyways, guys, we are out of here. Thank you. A sincere thank you to all the listeners out there. If you like the show, please like, share, and comment below, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will be notified when all of our new shows are uploaded. Click on the links below to join Mike and Lynn's Facebook page loaded with sports memorabilia content. Visit Mike's opening day break room to see tons of new products opened up daily that you can participate in. And lastly, visit our eBay store CardKast to look for the newest auctions of sports cards and memorabilia uploaded weekly. And we're out.